Grounded in the rich traditions of jazz and improvisation, bassist David Bamber is a genre-blending artist with a passion for creating progressive and boundary-pushing music. Drawing inspiration from his multicultural upbringing, Bamber fuses jazz, salsa, R&B, and hip-hop into his unique sound. A Howard University graduate, he's performed with iconic musicians such as Hubert Laws and Patty Austin. He's also shared the stage with luminaries like Warren Wolf. His debut EP, Beauty and the Journey, showcases original compositions merging contemporary and electronic influences. So join us as we learn more about his journey today. So, David, my friend, good to see you.
Good to be seen and good to see you.
Yeah, we were just saying long time no see. We got to perform together this past Saturday, so now we're on Zoom. David, let's talk a little bit about what drew you to the bass. The bass is the backbone of the music. So what was it about the bass that drew you in originally? I assume we're going back a number of years.
Sure. I mean, it's a couple things. Like I grew up in one of those households where my parents, I was lucky they paid for piano lessons and things like that. So I started taking music lessons when I was very young. The piano was my first instrument, and just to kind of work my way to the bass, um, I learned piano outside of school, but when it was, I guess, fourth or fifth grade in elementary school, I started on the cello. So that was really my first string instrument, and it's funny because my dad is a big jazz fan, so he was always playing that type of music, and he always loved the wood. That's what he called it, the wood. So he thought I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he thought it was kind of like funny that I was playing the cello and not the bass.
Mhm.
Um,
What was it, the cello versus the bass? Was it just what was available at the time?
yeah, exactly. And then I guess a lot of times the bass is a big instrument, so you don't really get to start it unless you have a junior bass or you're just tall enough to play it. And at least where I was at, they really wanted cello players. Um, because I didn't actually get into the upright bass until I was like my sophomore year in high school.
Oh, wow.
So I did play cello throughout, at least throughout like elementary school, middle school, a little bit of high school, and finally I just said like I had enough of this. Um, and I know I'm rambling a bit, but I wanted to play. I was kind of one of those people like I didn't really enjoy piano lessons that much. But when I got into high school, that's really when I got into music as like my own hobby. So I started on the electric bass. That was my first bass instrument. And I was self-taught on that for a little bit. And eventually I kind of wanted to, put this all together and play the upright. So I kind of begged my whoever was the band director, orchestra director at the time. I said like, yo, I'm tired of this. And I was the only boy playing cello, which is like, I don't know why that's a problem now, but at the time I was like, I'm the only boy in this cello section, so I wanted to be a man and play the bass. So
So
I
it's
started
like one plus one is two, sort of cello plus electric bass equals the upright.
right,
Yeah.
right, exactly,
So there were upright players in the band. You just had to switch over.
exactly.
So I know you said you were self-taught on the electric. Did you just kind of translate that into the upright, or you got some lessons right away, like, or mostly self-taught?
So I was I mean, nobody's self-taught for there's always somebody around. I feel like that's a weird thing to say. Um, there my the band director at my high school, he was actually bass was his primary instrument. So I did take a couple lessons with him to get started. And then pretty much after that, I was on my way. And I've been playing piano and cello, so a lot of it was just getting the right fingering and spacing and getting my strength up. Um, but so a lot of the work was kind of front loaded when I was younger because I
Mm.
knew I had to read bass clef, I knew how to read treble clef too. Um, and I was familiar with playing a string instrument.
Yeah,
So
and then you're in high school. I'm sure I'm that's when it probably gets serious, and you're like, want to go pursue this in college because that's the next step we're all supposed to do, right?
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how was that like? You applied to schools and you said I'm gonna could be a music major, or did it would you had your mindset on Howard originally?
Man, it's funny. Like I'm going back and working that story out a lot recently. because I do different things besides music. Um, I don't wanna like I was a good student and but I was good at a lot of things, so it's kind of like I don't think I really had a very crystal clear direction of what I wanted to do going as an 18-year-old going into college. So, and we apply for college and start looking at that when we're like 16 or something. So, at the time it was more of a thing where I was like the music guy in my area. I was the music guy in my school, so it was like I guess this is what you do next. And in Howard University, I mean they were handing out some mean scholarships. So it was like I got in contact with the band director there, Fred Irby, and sent him some stuff. And he was like, "All right, you come play in my band, and you'll have a almost free education." And I was like, "Okay, bet.
Yeah,
I'll try that
that's a
out."
good opportunity. I imagine too that you were going to Philly to check out music because you're in Ewing, New Jersey. Ewing's a nice town. Very,
Yeah.
it's the suburbs really. But
Absolutely.
very close to Philly, very close to New Hope. So was that when you were going to check out live jazz? Was it in Philly?
Um, yeah, so and it's funny, I was just talking with Gordon about this. We were joking about whether Central Jersey is a
At
thing.
our gig?
Um,
At our gig you were talking about.
and yeah, at our gig on Saturday, and but he was asking like, you can tell like what part of Jersey you're from because if you ask where's the city, if you say New York, you're up north. If you say Philly, you're south. I'm Central Jersey, man. But Philly, yeah. So I did go in to check out music in Philly. I did only for like one summer, but I did the Clef Club thing, um, like which is like a jazz program. I did a Kimmel Center jazz camp. Um, and I did come up playing with a lot of the guys in Philly. So I was pretty close to on that scene. In terms of music though, to check out, guys that were I was Ewing's an interesting place to be. I didn't really have to go far outside of Ewing to get like a music education. Are you familiar with Gigi Grice, the sax player?
Gigi, what
Um,
would you say, Gigi Rice?
Gigi Grice, yeah.
Oh, Gigi Grice.
So, yeah. So his brother, Tommy Grice, who was also a great jazz musician and music educator, he lived in Lawrence Township, right around the corner from me. So I could go and where I was in Ewing, I could go like I would go literally take a run or jog, go in the back trail and see him like chilling outside on his patio
That's
and we'd
awesome.
hang out. So and then Cliff Adams, the trombone player, he played for Kool in the Gang. And he lived around the corner from me in my same neighborhood in Ewing. So there's these older kind of mentor figures that were right there. So I really didn't have to go out into too far out into the city to at least find some mentors or get like an informal jazz education.
Was that under your own investigation or just kind of word of mouth? Like, where you're like, oh, I need to find some older cats to, kind of be around, or was that, you just heard about them?
I got to attribute like I once again I got to attribute it to my father, man. My dad was such a big jazz head, so it was more like and so I went to school with Cliff Adams' son. So it's kind of like these folks inserted themselves into my life just because they saw that I was into music. But yeah, I wouldn't dare say I was like I wouldn't say I was some super ambitious jazz kid who was like out there trying to find mentors. It wasn't That was not the case. It was more a matter of circumstance and luck.
So you have a great upbringing essentially, where you're around a positive musical scene in your school, and then you go to Howard,
Mm,
and then after we graduate college, we go into the real world. So
yeah,
you come back, right? You come back to, and that's probably when we met around that time, 2017 or something.
right. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, you were back. So, and now we're in 2025. So it's kind of been like working, as a professional musician, but as you mentioned, you do other things.
Hmm.
So let's talk about musically what's been going on for you the last year, and what's going on this year that you're looking forward to musically.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. How should I approach it, man? Well, you know me. I mean, we talk. I don't want to derail the
No, we could, this is a conversation. It's
yeah,
I'm not checking off questions, especially with art with this right now, where we could have a
gotcha.
conversation.
Yeah. So me, my big thing, man, is just wellness and being healthy. Um, and figuring out how to do this and build a life for myself where I'm able to be healthy and be a human being and incorporate, because it's like I'm 30 now, which is not super old, but a lot of times I'm trying to say like
30 is
it
young.
it is young, but also I'm at this place where there's some other things that I want in life more than just like because when I was 20 or 20 in my early 20s, I just wanted to be on the scene and be out all the time and play a bunch. I didn't really care about money. I just wanted to party a lot. So now it's like, how do I do this music thing and be well? So right now musically, I play a lot. I play a lot with my friend Matt. Um, I do that gig. So we play, he's another guitarist, Matt or Duke. I play with Jared a lot. We both know him. Of course, he's a mutual friend. Um, been doing some theater adjacent things like there's this guy Kyle Duke who runs a vocal studio. So I did his vocal performance showcase a while ago or about a month ago. Um, and just I kind of took a little bit of a break, man. So I would say starting around spring last year, I've been kind of slowly working my way back into not necessarily the scene, but just a regular working schedule. And
Do you want to work more, or you kind of feel like you have the balance now you want, or like, because we can get burnt out, or we can feel like we're not working enough. You know what I mean?
yeah, well, I wanna work more, but more like I like to have a lot more discretion about what I do. So
What do you
for
mean?
me, well, I used to say yes to a lot of stuff. So
Even
right
like
now,
the free stuff and like very little money.
yeah, it's like hey, I got a gig, let's do a session and or I remember especially when I was doing my grad work at Temple, like that was a big time and kind of so I met you in 2017. I think I was just starting grad school.
Right, that's
So
what it was.
like let's say so 2017 to let's say around 2020, I was big on just like I'll say yes to anything. I'll come to the city, I'll hang out. Um, but but I got to be honest. A lot of the things I said yes to was more like, all right, well, I'm gonna come do this thing, music, and then we're also gonna like get busted up and party. So now I don't really live like that anymore. So now it's more like we talked about this a couple gigs ago. The do I like to hang? Do I am I getting paid well? Is this worth it? Do I like the music? So a lot of times I take gigs based on whether I'm going to grow from it and those other things. So, and I also would like to be a band leader. So for example, I have a show coming up in March 11th at Chris's Cafe, and I'm a bassist, so I don't really lead bands a lot. So it is a big deal when I put together a group and write music, and that's something I am looking forward to.
That's a really good. Yeah, I mean, Chris's is a great club.
Yeah.
But I do want to say that, you're saying you took more things when you were, younger and everything, but that also is part of the process of getting better too. So you really can't fault yourself for that either.
Right, right. That is true.
You have to gain
That is
the experience of being on the bandstand, and it can't be all about money in the beginning. So that's
it's
something
it's
people have to think about.
it's really tough. I was just thinking about this before we hopped on, like that balance between, like cutting your teeth and earning your stripes a little bit, and then also like being like, all right, well, is this right? And I feel like being a little bit more experienced and older kind of grants you the ability, or I to speak for myself, grants me the ability to say, all right, is this worth it? Um, but
Well, let
yeah,
me give you my perspective for one quick second. And I'm just kind of
sure.
curious if you have any thoughts. So when I started performing, I did 100 gigs for free.
Mm,
And now I had it like I tallied it up as I'm like, because it can't all be for free.
right.
That took about 2 years, I would say, maybe. Do you think that was there a right amount? Like, do you think like you maybe did it for too long or something, or is it, what's the magic number you think for a younger musician who wants to do this?
I mean, it really magic number.
Or
It
is there?
I
There may not even be a magic number. Maybe I was just thinking too literally. You never know.
I hear you. I feel like it really depends on your skill level, you
Hmm.
know? 'Cause some cats go into their undergrad and they're just killing and can actually afford to just take the gigs they want, probably because they're getting called a lot.
Yeah.
But if you're someone like if the phone ain't ringing or you're not working a lot, then it's like, yeah, you got to cut your teeth. Um, what was tricky for me and is that I have always lived in New Jersey. So for example, like when I was at Temple, I would still consider that like a teeth cutting period. I got a lot better during my grad school experience and also just being around Philly. So I said for me that was a time where I was like saying yes to a lot of stuff. Um, but I was also like, I was staying on people's couches. So if you met me in 2017 and 2019, you might have thought that I lived in Philadelphia. Um, when I was done with grad school and like out of Philly like that, that's when things started to get a little tricky because I would get hit up by somebody. Um, and it was tough because I don't want to name drop, but I would get hit up by somebody who might be like significant on the scene, but it would be like a $50 gig.
Right.
And now it's like I have to make that call. Do I drive an hour and some change in traffic to get to Center City, drop like however, drop all this money on parking or not and catch a ticket for this $50 gig? Is this worth it? And those questions start to become a little more prevalent when you're outside of the city and not so plugged in geographically. Um, but to answer your question, man, I don't know if there's a right answer. I think it really depends on your skill level. And
Yeah, I
if
mean,
you're getting
like if let's say if some really famous person called you and they're like, "Come play with me for $50," you're probably like, "Oh yeah, I'll do." You know what I mean? But I mean, if I called you for $50, I mean, I would say no to me and for 50. You know what I mean?
right.
Those things do matter too, but it's all a process and it's all a learning experience.
Yeah,
But that led you. Is it okay if we talk about the other career direction you're also pursuing now too? Because that's also important.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about that. The next venture. I mean, obviously you're still playing and doing all music stuff, but you're also pursuing something else while doing that.
Yeah, so I'm working on my master's and license in counseling and mental health. So I guess it's funny because the things that I'm studying right now are just useful for being a person. So in a couple years I'll have my license to practice counseling and it kind of brings me into the wellness bit. So I guess for me, and I'm sure I'm speaking to other people, but it's really hard to do this music thing if you're not holistically okay, you know? And I feel like musicians, not everyone, but musicians tend to be a sensitive bunch. Um, a lot of musicians are, I speak for myself, I'm very like empathetic and I'm just very sensitive to my environments. So I've learned that you need a little bit of resiliency the people who do this thing really well have a certain amount of resiliency, and an ability and like comfort in their own skin.
Mm.
And and if you're somebody who doesn't have those things, I would say that I did not have those things. These are things that I'm working on currently, as I'm studying. And I've noticed that it's just a lot easier to play music, um, because music is a social thing. Music is an emotional thing. Some people might say it's a spiritual thing, but if you are not okay inside and your house is not in order, then going out and performing and giving of yourself to an audience, I feel like it's just like a moot point, or it doesn't work out as well.
Yeah. What do you mean when you say like like holistically okay because we all go through stuff and we're all a work in progress. Does that just mean like being confident in who you are, uh, just on the instrument 50 and being confident in just a human being 50, like you know who you are, so to speak? Like that's the way I'm
Yeah.
thinking about it now, you know?
Yeah, I mean that's a great. I mean, yeah, that's one aspect of it. So I'll use myself as an example. Like so a younger me used to be obsessed with the internet, okay? Or like Instagram. So who was following me? Who liked my stuff? Um um was I getting vibed on a gig? And these things would affect like how I would go out and play.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I would go do a gig with somebody and see that like they didn't follow me on Instagram, and then I would be salty and not want to play with them again. You know what I'm saying? Like or or and that confidence bit, like if I was self-confident or if I was comfortable the way that I am today, because I just don't give a damn, man. I don't even be on Instagram like that. So I just think about so many times of just even a few years ago where I would like get sensitive and be like, oh, this guy doesn't follow me, but we play together. Oh, he doesn't like me. Nobody likes me. And I would really get in my head and be like, I'm corny. And that's just not the case.
Yeah.
Uh,
We and I when I say we, I mean the masses.
yeah,
I mean, everybody, this is something people struggle with, you know. It's not mind reading necessarily, but it's like we're not mind readers and we make up scenarios in our head. When I say, you know, thinking is the enemy
yeah.
sometimes.
Hmm.
So that's why I have this sign right here, the
Oh,
sign.
nice. Yeah,
Our mind is just like we need to like do the opposite sometimes.
yeah. And um and then also, just thinking about it, it's a superhuman thing to just keeping on the whole topic of being comfortable and holistic. You got to stay positive, or you have to keep a super consistent perspective on everything happening in your life. I know for me, like I would it's superhuman to get stuck on negative things. So a lot of people, and myself included, will have good things happening, and then one thing will go wrong, and they'll stay on that one thing. So for me, I would definitely do that where I would like maybe I didn't get paid on time for a gig, and then I'd start spiraling and be like, oh my gosh, I'm
No, no,
broken the
so
book.
let's I got a good example for you.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I'm gonna interject. I apologize. So we were on this gig this past weekend, and we were like playing a tune for the first time, and like
yeah,
I was like going through the chords with you on like a chorus. You know, I played them, and we were just going through them together just so we could lock in. You know,
yeah.
like
Mhm.
like with the older David, maybe like you know what I mean, like oh this is like annoying right now, or like and now you're like yeah no we're just trying to make music, and he's just trying to like you know we're just trying to set it up. You know.
Yeah.
Because like
So,
I looked at it like I'm like yeah I just want us to be on the same page and like I didn't look in any way like I'm like no this is the first time like I don't care to run through it like one time like you know but would the older of you been like a little pissed about that you think?
not pissed, but an older me, or younger me would have been real self-conscious, and I might have been driving my hour and a half back to Ewing and been like, oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
folded so hard. Uh, Abe's never gonna call me again. That drummer Gordon, like, you must think that I suck. Oh man, like, and now I don't feel that way. It's just music. I mean, music is important, but it's also just music. The gig's still gonna happen. We're still gonna get through it. And I would be sweating my tail off. Like I probably would have been like sweating bullets, and I mean I sweat anyway, but I would have been like nervous, and it would have like just derailed. I would have been in my feelings like the whole rest of the gig.
Yeah, I think that that takes a certain, you know, you have to be at a certain development in your life as an artist or, you know, as a person where you just look at, you know, it's and just realize it's all just a journey and
Mhm,
it's not what we, you know, what we really think it is. It's just we're on this path and that's the, you know, that's life.
mhm. Absolutely.
It's not about this one moment that happened or about this one post or XYZ. It's just we're just doing it, you know?
Right.
Just the space of going. So. I mean, that's
Mhm.
the way I kind of think about it.
Absolutely.
So now that you're going for um, your degree in counseling and everything, do you hope that maybe you could carve a niche and help out musicians who are kind of dealing with the same thing at some point?
Absolutely. That is a huge ambition of mine that, when I get to that time, if I have a private practice, I would definitely like to be very open about or advertise that I would like to work with musicians and artists a lot because I feel like it's just a group like that's just ripe for therapy basically
Yeah.
and could really benefit from it.
Yeah.
I think it's super important.
When I was at Berkeley, I did a gig with some people. I mean, I was like 21 years old. Like, let's even maybe even 20. So we're going
Mhm.
back a long time. And I did this gig with these people, and I thought I just sucked so badly on the gig
Mhm.
that, like, afterwards, after the gig, I really wanted to go home because I was tired, but I went out with them because I was like, oh, if I don't go out with them, they're going to talk shit about me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And at the time, I went to a therapist, and he was, like, he kind of helped me work through that, which was just like people are going to think what they think anyway. So you really can't change that. It's out of your control. Acceptance is key.
I just think that I mean I really believe that everybody and therapy being able to see a therapist is a privileged thing. You
That's
know,
true.
it's like, it's a lot of therapists are out of network. They might not take insurance. If you're like a grown up and you're not on your parents' insurance anymore, then it's a it's a toss up.
It's
So
costly.
it is and so it is a privilege to be able to see a therapist. I think everyone needs one, but musicians it's because this is a performance-based career. So it's tough to just like my brother is a lawyer, I was telling you, and he deals with some of the same things that we deal with as musicians because he has to go stand in court and adjudicate and he gets paid to do this thing and do it well. And if he messes up, then it's like, come on. So I feel like if you are in a career where your money is dependent on doing this thing and doing it well, inevitably you might get to some point where you start tying your worth and your personality or your identity to this thing. And that's when someone like a professional can help you unpack and separate these things, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
I think it's very important to musicians to, if you're going to do this, you have to have your shit together mentally to a certain extent.
Absolutely.
Because like you're saying, like I've always viewed you as someone who's super talented and can play and do all this great stuff. But like look at all the stuff you were telling me, all the stuff that you were going through at one point. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
I don't know how many musicians are just, you know what I mean? Are they dealing with it or are they just not talking about it because they're ashamed about it or something like that? I don't know. I don't know.
Oh man. Oh, yeah, I mean, sobriety is a and I'll say that's the elephant in the room. It's a tricky thing, and if we're talking about like addiction and sobriety and things like that, it's always a spectrum. So if you're someone like me who you're like missing work, not picking up the phone, calling out of gigs, then you know that that is a problem.
Yeah.
I had to take care of some things. But some people don't get that way, and sometimes for better or for worse. Because some folks, like everyone knows somebody who like is in poor health, grumpy, upset all the time, but maybe they still show up and do what they got to do. And it's a very tricky situation to be in because when you're still taking care of business, you can kind of create this feeling that you're okay.
Yeah.
I would not like that. Me, I things just blew up and I said, all right, I had enough.
Well, playing this music, we're talking about in a jazz context because we're improvising. It's
Yeah.
a balancing act. It's like walking on a tightrope, you
Yeah.
know? So it's like, let's say three people are walking on a tightrope together. There can't be malice.
No.
And there's
No.
got to be like, we just need to like make music, and that's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And it will come out in the music. If one person on that tightrope is just busted up or it's gonna come out in the music. It will
Yeah.
show. Yeah.
Yeah. It's you really want to find like-minded people who can you just feel relaxed around, and you can just be yourself to play the way you want to play. And it's people get kind of locked in into like, oh, I need to call this person, I need to call this person because they'll help my career. But
Hmm.
at the
Right.
end of the day, you got to just be comfortable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no, no. I think it's so great that you're taking the steps to developing this. Well, you're conceptualizing, helping musicians who are dealing with a lot of these things that can be very detrimental to their artistry.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah. It's what the world needs in musicians, so it's going to be great. Before we wrap up, let's plug your social media websites for everybody.
Sure, you can Bamber Music is my Instagram, Bamber music. Um bambermusic.com is my website, which I should update. Um I will be updating soon.
Yeah, put our next gigs on there, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'm so bad about that. And I sit there and I freaking pay for this this website subscription and don't update it. Um that's the next thing I'm working on too, man. Just like being a citizen of the internet,
Yeah.
despite
Well,
my aversion towards it.
for sure, for sure. Well, listen, man, it's a pleasure to speak with you, and we'll be on the bandstand as usual, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, man.
Good talk, man. Thanks for having me.